Good evening, dear students. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy. So we have been discussing important topics for mains examination from Polity, and today we will be discussing about Central and State Information Commission. And apart from that, we also have some other important topics for the discussion. So, but first, let's get into this Central and State Information Commission and why they are important, and when they were established, and what is the main objective of establishing Central and State Information Commissions, and how these information commissions actually empower citizens, providing them with adequate information, right? So empowering citizens with information, and it also helps ensuring transparency and accountability in the administration, and holding the officers, holding the entire administration transparent or responsible for the acts that they have done, the decisions that they have made in the positions of authority. So we'll understand this in a very detailed manner, and first understand, so what is the Central Information Commission and when it was formed. Now understand one thing, that Central Information Commission is a statutory body. It is an independent statutory body because it was established through an act of Parliament. So Right to Information Act, that was passed in the year 2005. Right to Information Act was passed in the year 2005. So what is the objective of Right to Information Act? The objective of Right to Information Act is promotion of transparency and accountability. Promotion of transparency and accountability in the administration. And secondly, the objective is to empower citizens with information. So this is also another very important objective of bringing in Right to Information Act. Now generally what happens in administration, if there is no transparency and accountability, it will leads to corruption, right? So it actually gives ways to corruption, and corruption will lead to bad governance. Instead of good governance, corruption will result in poor governance, or it will result in bad governance as well, because the benefits of the welfare schemes would not be reached to the public, and there might be leakages and inefficient usage of public funds, public resources, and even the diversion of crucial resources that actually happens with lack of transparency and accountability in the administration. But the Right to Information Act, its objective is to bring in both transparency and accountability in the administration. So how it brings in transparency and accountability? It actually, information would be provided to the citizens, and this information will be helpful for the citizens to hold the to hold various authorities transparent and accountable for the decisions that they have actually made, right? So you might have seen that the Right to Information Act has been used to unearth information, and that has further resulted in uncovering corruption in the government administration. So such things would happen, and this is the advantage of Right to Information Act. So you just have to remember that Right to Information Act, so it is providing information or empowering citizens with adequate information, and also promotion of transparency and accountability in the administration. So that is the objective. So in order to implement the Right to Information Act, so there is an institutional structure and a mechanism has been established through this Right to Information Act of 2005. So at the national level, we have Central Information Commission, and at the level of state, there are also State Information Commissions have been established. So in case information is required for any subject which is mentioned in the state list, State Information Commission would be the nodal authority. At the national level, Central Information Commission would be considered as nodal agency, nodal authority for providing information to the citizens or resolving the grievances of the citizens with respect to information. For example, when I say grievances, imagine that any individual who have actually sought information from a public authority, sought information on a public authority regarding a project, right? So however, this public authority either delayed providing information to the individual, and the authority has provided him the incorrect information, and even the authority has altogether denied giving him the information. So in all those cases, the individual can actually approach the Central Information Commission. Now, Central Information Commission would actually look into these grievances and would also resolve all these grievances as well. So I hope you have understood what constitute Right to Information Act and what is Central Information Commission and also State Information Commission. And in the Central Information Commission, it actually comprises a Chief Information Commissioner. So it consists of Chief Information Commissioner and up to 10 Information Commissioners, right? So the Chief Information Commission would consist of one Chief Information Commissioner and also 10 Information Commissioners. And they actually perform all those duties that they have I have just mentioned. So for example, they address the grievances of people regarding the information that they have already sought from any public authority, and they also hear appeals related to the information requests and also ensure that citizens have access to the essential information. So this is what they actually do. And in fact, who is having the power and authority to appoint Chief Information Commissioner and also the Information Commissioners? So this might be important for your prelims examination, so you just have to remember this. I would be telling you that the Chief Information Commissioner and Information Commissioners would be appointed by whom? They are appointed by the President. They are being appointed by the President. So therefore, President actually appoint Chief Information Commissioner and also Information Commissioners. So it is not based on his discretion. It is not solely based on the discretion of the executive. Unlike Election Commission of India's appointments, so it is we can say that there is no separate search committee, there's no separate select committee for the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. But on the other hand, when it comes to the appointment of Chief Information Commissioners and also other information commissioners, so there is also a committee. So this committee is known as a selection committee. So this selection committee actually consisting of Prime Minister and leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha and also a union cabinet minister who is nominated by the Prime Minister. So this is what is called as selection committee. Now this selection committee will find out suitable individuals who would be appointed as Chief Information Commissioner plus Information Commissioners. So once they find out the suitable candidates or suitable individuals, they actually recommend these names to the President for the appointment of Chief Information Commissioner and Information Commissioners. Then President would accordingly appoint them. So I hope it is clear for you. Now we'll understand what is the tenure of Chief Information Commissioner. So this is also very important, right? So we need to understand the tenures tenure, and also the service conditions of Chief Information Commissioner and other information commissioners. So if you carefully look at the service conditions and tenure of the Chief Information Commissioner and also the Information Commissioner, so they actually serve for a term of 3 years. Right, so it is not like the constitutional authorities like UPSC chairman, so it is not like that, or controller and auditor general. So they serve for the period of 3 years or until they reach the age of 65 years, whichever would be earlier. And in fact, so once they are appointed, they are not eligible for the reappointment, also not eligible for reappointment. So they would be appointed only once. So this ensures that they work in an impartial manner and a non-biased manner. So they can also work without fear and favor, without any fear and favor. So that's why this provision of they are not being eligible for reappointment has been introduced, because once they are appointed as Chief Information Commissioners or Information Commissioners, so they are not eligible for the reappointment. So that is what you should understand here. And in fact, what are the important functions that the Central Information Commission usually performs? So this is also important that we should actually understand. So we have already briefly discussed about that, the functions and the responsibilities that are being performed by the Central Information Commission. Now we'll try to understand what are the key functions that it actually performs. And in fact, it is being said that the Central Information Commission plays a very, very important role when it comes to providing providing adequate information to the citizens, or I would also call it as empowering people with adequate information, empowering people with information. So we can also say that right to access information. So Central Information Commission has a huge role to play when it comes to protecting and promoting citizens' right to access information, and this information will play a very, very important role in holding the authorities transparent and also accountable for the acts that they have done, for the decisions that they have taken. Right, so if you look at the important functions that are performed by the Central Information Commission, it actually responsible for inquiring into the complaints from individuals. For example, so we have just discussed that if any individual who actually filed for information or filed RTI for information regarding a project with the public authority, but here public authority outrightly denied providing information to the individual, now individual can approach the Central Information Commission with his case that this information has been denied by the concerned public authority, so I need a recourse, so therefore my grievance has to be resolved. So now the Chief Central Information Commission would step in and they would inquire into it, and they also ensure that this individual would receive the information from the concerned public authority. And secondly, it also looks into the matter such as any public authority. So if it denied providing information to the individuals, right, so if it is not providing information, or if it deliberately delays providing information to the individual, so in that case also it would jump in and it would also start inquiring on that particular matter. And in fact, so in Right to Information Act, in Right to Information Act 2005, there is a separate provision. What is that provision? That provision is that in case any public authority has not provided information within a specific timeline, then that public authority would be there is a penalty that would be imposed on that public authority, right? So if it believes, the Central Information Commission believes that the fee charged for accessing the information is unreasonable, right? So if any public authority demand a fee which is unreasonable, which is excess amount, so then also the Central Information Commission would start inquiry on the matter. And any public authority which has provided incomplete information, false information, misleading information, so in all those cases, generally what happens, the Central Information Commission would play a very important role. So ultimately it ensures that the citizens have access to the information that they have sought, right? So this information would empower the citizens, and this information would also bring in transparency and accountability into the administration, and ultimately it would result in what? It would result in good governance. So that aspect we should understand, and this is a very important aspect. Now we'll briefly understand the powers of the Central Information Commission, right? So it is having certain important powers. So we just look into those powers. What are the important powers that it has been holding, right? So we have just discussed that RTI would bring in transparency and accountability into the administration. So it brings in transparency and accountability into the administration, and in fact it can also initiate inquiry into a matter suo motu. So suo motu essentially means it can actually take up any matter. So it actually takes up any matter on its own without any complaint from the citizen. So in case the Central Information Commission believes that any public authority has been deliberately delaying providing information to an individual, any public authority is not providing any information that has been sought by the individual, and any public authority has been demanding excessive amount of fee as part of this right to information application. So in all those cases, generally what happens is that the Central Information Commission would take up matters suo motu without actually complaint from any individual as well. And in fact, so the Central Information Commission hears the appeals from individual who are actually dissatisfied with the responses received from public authorities under the RTI Act, Right to Information Act. So under the Right to Information Act, if any citizen or any individual who is not satisfied, who is dissatisfied with the way the public authorities have been providing him the information, then the CIC would jumps in and it ensures that citizen receives information that he or she has sought, and at the same time the information is provided within a specific time frame as well. So essentially it ensures that whatever grievances that the citizens have, those grievances would be resolved by the Central Information Commission. And apart from that, so it can also issue orders on certain matters to the public authorities, right? So what sort of an order that it can actually issue? So it can issue public order to the certain authorities that these authorities must provide information. So they must provide relevant or requested information, so thereby ensuring compliance to the Right to Information Act. And similarly, so as I have already talked about this, so penalties. So in case any organization, any public authority and any public figure who is not providing information within the time frame, so there should be a time frame so within which the public authority must provide the information to the citizen. So in case the public authority failed to provide information within a specific timeline, so in that case, so the public authority would be liable for the penalty. And in this case, the Chief Information Commission actually has the authority to impose penalties on the public information officers, who are called PIOs, for failing to provide information, for providing misleading information. And similarly, the investigative powers. So when we talk about the investigative powers, it is also having investigative powers. So remember that we have just discussed that it can also take up matters suo motu. So it can also take up matters on its own in case of any public authority violates the Right to Information Act. So in case any public authority has not been providing information to the citizens as per the provisions of Right to Information Act. So similarly, it is also having powers of investigation, right? So it actually conduct inquiries into the complaints regarding the non-disclosure of information. And it also provides the guidance that is required, because it issues guidelines and recommendations for effective implementation of the Right to Information Act. So a report submission, so it also submits reports, right? So when we talk about the report submission, the Chief Information Commission is required to submit annual reports to the government detailing the activities and also the status of RTI applications which are received by the Central Information Commission. However, the Central Information Commission has been facing certain challenges. So what are the key challenges that it has been facing? So it is very important for us to understand and discuss those challenges that the Central Information Commission has been facing. Now, there is no doubt that we can actually come to the conclusion that Central Information Commission or RTI Act will play a very, very important role in bringing in transparency and accountability into the administration, right? So it brings in transparency and accountability into the administration. However, the Central Information Commission has been facing a lot of challenges while delivering its duties or its functions, right? So these challenges would altogether question the overall effectiveness of the Right to Information Act 2005 and the functioning of the Central Information Commission as well. Now, what are the key issues that the Central Information Commission has been facing? Now, the first challenge is that there's a lack of transparency in the functioning of the Central Information Commission, because we have just discussed that there is a selection committee, right? So there is a selection committee for the appointment of Central Information Commissioners and also other information commissioners. So this selection committee consists of whom? So it consists of Prime Minister, it consists of Leader of Opposition, and it also consists of a cabinet minister who is nominated by the Prime Minister. And at the state level also, for the selection of State Information Commissioner, a similar apparatus has been established at the state level as well. However, it is being alleged that there is lack of transparency because with the concerns over predominance of former bureaucrats being appointed, because most of the Central Information Commissioners and also the other information commissioners, most of them are the former bureaucrats who actually worked in the government. So therefore there might be chances of bias and also lack of impartiality as well. So this is the main problem, and this also results in lack of overall transparency in the appointment process. And you could also see that there is excessive domination of the executive, excessive dominance of the executive, because here Prime Minister is part of the selection committee, and also the cabinet minister who is nominated by the Prime Minister, so he is also part of the selection committee. So there is an excessive dominance of the executive along with lack of transparency. And similarly, the other major problem is record management. So we can actually say that there is a poor record management, and that has been existing here, right? So poor record management would very often lead to delay in providing information to the citizens within a specific time frame. So therefore the solution here would be the digitization of the records. So digitization and computerization of the records, and that's how the information could be provided to the citizens in a quick time. So information could be provided in a quick time, and a number of RTI applications which are pending with the Central Information Commission and also State Information Commission could be resolved in at a much faster pace. So if there is a computerization and also digitization of the records, because lack of digitization or lack of proper record management would result in delays in delays in resolving the existing RTI applications with the Central Information Commission and various other government bodies. And apart from that, so we can also say that there is an overburdened, the Central Information Commission is actually overburdened with the number of appeals that it has been receiving, because there's a very high volume of appeals that it receives, and that has actually resulted in a prolonged processing time, right? So prolonged processing time, and also delays in delivering justice, delays in providing information. So when there is a delay in providing information, so that would also result in inefficiency when it comes to holding the administration accountable, and also demanding more and more transparency would not be possible when citizens don't have access to information within the time. And apart from that, there's also a delay in the second appeals as well, because RTI Act sets there should be no time limit for disposing of the second appeals. So this could further hinder the efficiency of the Central Information Commission when it comes to disposing of those petitions which are filed before it. And poor quality of information has been provided, misinformation has been provided, poor quality generic information has been provided to the individuals by these public authorities. And in fact, so most of the information that is provided by these public authorities is unsatisfactory to the applicants. So it is unsatisfactory in nature. So for example, you sought an information on Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, its implementation, and also the funding that it has received. For example, the concerned public authority has provided you the information, but this information is lacking important details regarding the funding that has been received, the expenditure that has been incurred, the number of work and number of people who are employed. So if you don't lack information, so if this information don't lack all these important details, so then you cannot hold the administration accountable, right? So that is another major problem. And there's also a low public awareness about the RTI Act and also the Central Information Commission, State Information Commission, and the grievance redressal mechanisms. And even so normal people also not filing the RTI applications, and they are also not demanding the information from the public authorities, and this is all because of lack of public awareness about the RTI Act. So there's a limited awareness of the RTI Act, particularly among the marginalized communities. So this is another major problem with the RTI Act. So what should be the way forward, right? So we need to discuss an appropriate way forward as well for this RTI Act. So the appropriate way forward would be enhancing effectiveness and also reinforcing public trust. So how can the Central Information Commission would strengthen its efficiency, and along with strengthening its efficiency, how it can reinforce public trust? So how it can actually reinforce the public trust? So it can be done through a number of ways, such as a digitization of records. So thereby it will result in better record management, and better record management means that the information would be provided to the concerned parties in a very quick manner, within a proper time frame. And at the same time, so the pending RTI applications should be disposed of. So they should be disposed of. Along with disposing of the pending RTI applications, there should be no delays in providing information, and quality of information should also be adequately increased, and penalties should be strictly imposed on the public authorities who actually not provided information to the concerned parties within the time frame. So all these things must be done. And in fact, so along with that, so whatever we have discussed, so this actually include more and more resources allocations. So that means more and more budgetary support. So budgetary support should be provided. Budgetary support should be provided to the Central Information Commission, so that it actually helps in further strengthening its capacities, right? So it would result in capacity building and better functioning of the Central Information Commission and State Information Commission, and fair implementation of the Right to Information Act, and that would further result in bringing in transparency and accountability in the administration, and that could also check corruption and plug leakages as well in the administration. So that also further strengthen goodwill and public trust on how the government is actually functioning, and this would ultimately result in good governance, right? So good governance, right? So good governance that is aimed at minimum government and maximum governance. And similarly, fostering collaboration with public authorities to ensure compliance with the Central Information Commission orders, and technology actually plays a very important role. So here technological advancements are the areas where one needs to work on. And similarly, addressing these challenges and also promoting the culture of transparency and accountability, the Central Information Commission can actually empower citizens with the information, and also it helps in upholding the fundamental rights of citizens in a democracy. So this is how you can actually write a way forward for the Central Information Commission. Now understand one thing, that if there are any best practices, if there are any key initiatives that are brought in by the Central Information Commission and other state information commissioners, which further strengthens their efficiency, effectiveness in providing information, so you could actually mention those aspects as well, because it would further enrich your answer, right? So next is parliamentary committees. So we'll briefly understand parliamentary committees. So remember that these parliamentary committees is also very important topic that has to be discussed, and because the parliamentary committees are very often asked in the previous year questions also, so it is important for us to understand these parliamentary committees. Now understand, so parliamentary committees actually means a committee that is related to the either house of the parliament or both houses of the parliament. And in fact this committee consisting of a group of parliamentarians who are elected by the house, the respective house, and nominated by the speaker or the chairman. So in case of Lok Sabha it is speaker, in case of Rajya Sabha it is the chairman. And sometimes speaker and chairman, they also nominate members to these respective committees, and they actually work under and submit reports to speaker and also chairman, and they have the secretariat provided by the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. So this is how, so in case if you get any question on the parliamentary committees, so this is how you can introduce your answer. And what is the specific role that these parliamentary committees perform? So parliamentary committees actually perform a specific role, right? So these parliamentary committees actually have a specialized job, so they perform a specialized function. So what sort of a specialized function or specialized job that they actually perform? Because the standing committee performs specialized jobs and ad hoc committees. For example, there are certain standing committees, and these standing committees are also called as, in fact, the permanent committees. So they are permanent committees. So examples of permanent committees are Public Accounts Committee, Committee on Estimates, or Estimates Committee of the Parliament. So those committees are called as the standing committees. But on the other hand, there are also some ad hoc committees as well. So these ad hoc committees are the committees, for example, ad hoc committee on the digital payments. So ad hoc committees are committees which are just established for a temporary period of time. So they are established only for a temporary period of time. Once the purpose is served, so they would be dissolved. So this is the difference between the ad hoc committees of the parliament and also the standing committees of the parliament. And in fact, they are constituted to perform specific tasks, and they cease to exist upon their completion, right? So that's why we can say that they actually perform some specialized jobs. And in fact, they also do in-depth scrutiny of different matters. For example, working beyond the parliamentary sessions actually enables in-depth scrutiny of different bills. For example, triple talaq bill, so that is introduced in the parliament. For example, Nari Shakti Vandana Abhinayam bill. So these bills are generally referred to the parliamentary committees, but nowadays the number of bills which are referred to the committees have been substantially reduced. But in most cases these bills have to be referred because the committees would have the expertise and they would do the in-depth scrutiny of the various bills, and they also suggest recommendations for those bills as well, right? So because it would not be easy for each and every parliamentarian to go in depth, so go for in-depth scrutiny of these bills, right? In-depth scrutiny of these bills is very, very important to prevent executive arbitrariness. So therefore, keeping this in mind, keeping the other factor, that increasing workload of the parliament in mind, the parliamentary committees will actually assist the parliament in doing the in-depth scrutiny of the bills and also suggesting various recommendations. So it also engages the stakeholders, engaging stakeholders. So how it actually engages the stakeholders, so that is also very, very important, because during the review of the subjects, so these committees seek feedback from the non-governmental organizations, experts, citizens. For example, the Finance Committee summoned RBI Governor on the demonetization subject, right? So they also very often engage different stakeholders, and they sought the public opinion, they sought the views and opinions of those different stakeholders when it comes to doing a detailed scrutiny of all these bills. And in fact, parliamentary committees also play a very important role in holding the executive accountable to the legislature, right? So in fact, the council of ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha or the lower house. They're collectively responsible for the lower house, and in fact these parliamentary committees play one of the very important role in holding the executive accountable to the parliament, because the parliamentary committees would actually do a detailed scrutiny of various bills which are introduced in the parliament by the executive. And in fact, the detailed scrutiny of these bills would further enrich and enhance the debates, deliberations and discussions on the bills which are introduced by the executive. And in case if there is any arbitrary policy or arbitrary legislative measure that the executive has been planning to introduce, so that would go for a greater deliberation, and this is how it would further strengthen the deliberative democracy in a country like India. So in a country like India, it would substantially strengthen the aspect of deliberative democracy. Similarly, the financial prudence. So financial prudence is that, for example, committees like the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament. So what they do, so they actually review budgetary allocations, right? So they review budgetary allocations, and it also results in ensuring the efficiency of the public administration, efficiency of public expenditure. Because what they do, so they actually review the public expenditure or budgetary allocations, and that would ultimately results in efficiency in public expenditure. Because remember, Parliament can actually hold the executive accountable, and that would further result in more transparency, more accountability when it comes to spending public resources or utilizing the public resources as well. And so the parliamentary committees also play a very important role when it comes to resolving the issues which are existing in various bills, because a multi-layered pre-legislative scrutiny, so that would result in significant issues in the bill getting addressed. For example, redressal of significant issues in the Prevention of Corruption Amendment Bill. So all these things would be done because before the parliament actually enacts any legislation, the parliamentary committees would take up such bills, and they also do a detailed scrutiny of various bills. And it is also considered as a forum for consensus building, because the anti-defection law does not apply to these committees, and this enables the partial functioning beyond party lines to build consensus on various issues which are existing. And developing expertise, so it plays a very important role, because it has expertise, and expertise would look into various matters, and they also provide expert advice and also recommendations on these bills. And accordingly, if government wanted, government can also make changes in those bills, and ultimately it would contribute to strengthening the parliamentary system, and it would further improve the governance architecture in India. However, the committees have been facing various issues as of now. What are the issues that they have been facing? So a number of bills which are referred to these parliamentary committees have been reduced in recent times, right? A significant reduction in the number of bills which are referred to the parliamentary committees. For example, RTI Amendment Act 2019 and Unlawful Activities Amendment Act 2019. So they were actually passed without referring them to the parliamentary committees, right? And even abstention, absenteeism of the members from the committees. So this is also another major problem, because the attendance is about just 50% since 2014-15, and this is a major cause of concern when it comes to the functioning of these parliamentary committees. And the short tenure, because 1 year tenure of these committees, most of these committees have a 1 year tenure, so this tenure is considered as a very little for specializations, as well as finishing a detailed review of the complex topics which are before or which are in front of all these different committees. And there's also lack of expertise within these committees, and there should be more and more technical expertise, and the support has to be provided to the parliamentary committees, and this will actually help in a more detailed analysis of various topics such as accounting, administrative principles. So they actually require what? They require technical expertise, and that technical expertise would do. And similarly, the non-binding recommendations. So non-binding recommendations in the sense that only a certain debates actually make reference to some reports, and most of these reports are not taken for discussion in parliament. And politicization of the meetings that are being conducted, because members have started taking strict party lines in meetings on issues that are getting the public attention. So all these are the major issues within the parliamentary committees, and those issues have to be addressed. So what should be the appropriate and most viable way forward to further strengthen the parliamentary committee system, because they play a very important role in holding the executive accountable to the legislature. The way forward is the National Commission for Review working of the Constitution has recommended the following steps to improve the effectiveness of parliamentary committees. For example, increasing tenure. So the tenure should not be 1 year, instead the tenure should be 2 years for a more detailed analysis, for better specialization of these parliamentary committees, and that's how the parliamentary committees would be strengthened, and the deliberative democracy would further be strengthened. And there should be institutional research support, because this will allow committees to examine technical and complex policy issues more and more holistically, right? So if you have any other suggestions, recommendations, you can also write here, so that would further enrich your answer. Anyway, that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like our class, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.